ja, dit is nog in de middag, I think. And hey man, welcome to it. Vlog 56, been a while since I've vlogged. I've focused mostly these days on my Facebook Live and even trialing some of these Instagram Live videos. So they've been quite interesting to use a different platform for a change. Guys, welcome to it. This is vlog 56 here on the Big Daddy Liberty Show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, Big Daddy Liberty. I'm just out and about. And it is November the 2nd, a Monday. Man, it's the eve of the elections in the United States of America. Of course, pitting two rather interesting characters against each other. One Joe Biden, of course, who's the former vice president under the Obama years, and the main man himself, perhaps the loudest voice in the room, even though he's the most censored at times voice in the room, Donald Trump, the current president of the United States, or as I like to call him, 45 Savage. But yeah, these two chaps have put in the hard yards, I suppose. They've been campaigning. They've crisscrossed the country. Maybe not so much Joe Biden, because apparently he's, for the last week, or was it last 2 weeks, homie's been sitting at home. Not sure what's that all about. But Trump, at the very least, has definitely been crisscrossing that country, getting his message out. And it's now a wait and see game for those of us, of course, who are not citizens of that country, who be outside looking in as Americans head to the polls tomorrow to vote. But there's a few interesting tidbits that I wanted to get off my chest when it comes to this election and what we've seen as outsiders. Before I get into any of that, let me get a very quick hashtag stand with BDL, just to make sure that the sound is great and of course that the video is great. I'm gonna just see if I see that hashtag stand with BDL, then I know everything is pashash. And with that being said, whilst I maybe wait for that confirmation, just a reminder, you can, there you go, Heinz Trouble. Hey dog, I see you. Thank you for that. And I see you, Matt J. But remember, as I always say, you can support the Big Daddy Liberty Show by becoming a friend of the show. That is, you can donate, or rather contribute, as little as $1 a month. That's 20 Rand a month, guys, either via Patreon or via PayPal. The information is in the descriptor of this video. I will soon also push out a bank account which people can, if they're looking to contribute to my work, contribute via the bank account. So, okay, all right, let's get into it. So there's three distinct things I think I want to chat about in this, what should be a relatively short vlog. I know I always say that, and it becomes like an hour vlog, but it won't be an hour vlog. I'm genuinely aiming for 15 minutes. Guys, number one, there can be no doubt that of the two candidates, we're almost seeing a repeat of history, where the mainstream media in the United States of America, the social elites, including the likes of your Hollywood and the celebrities and the chattering classes in that part of the world, and of course the political elites by and large, including the political punditry, these various political analysts in that part of the world, and of course the academics, clearly favor the Democratic Party and the Democratic nominee. There is no two ways around this. There is an open bias by those three facets of United States society. That's the mainstream media by and large, the social elites. This includes the likes of your Hollywood, the rich class, if you will, and the elites, and of course the political punditry in that part of the world, the political elites, and the academia. The ones who are often used, for instance, in the mainstream media, much like here in South Africa, to give analysis on the elections. It is quite clear that these three are, if anything, and I stand. I think I'm about to make a controversial statement, but I don't think it's that controversial, which is Donald Trump, literally, it's him, Donald Trump, versus Joe Biden, and the media, and the social elites, and the political punditry. That homie, Donald J. Trump, it's literally him versus an entire establishment. And you see this. You see this in, for instance, how, and again, I'm not in favor of it or against it. This is just my pure analysis, and it's something which I think a lot of you have also picked up. And the point I was about to make is you see it in how, in the speeches he makes, the rallies he has to make, he has to go after multiple, interests who are opposing him. It's not just Joe Biden that he has to sort of contend with and deal with. Often he has to criticize and go after the mainstream media, which does not give that guy a fair shake. I don't care what you think about Donald Trump, whether you hate him or like him or whatever. The fact would be, and the fact really is, the media in that country does not give him a fair shake. It is waiting with that gotcha attitude to try to see if he slips up. It is mean, it is vindictive at times, it is even scathing, and sometimes even unfactual about Donald Trump. They'll openly just lie about the guy. And again, this is not to say that Donald Trump is this angel, right? That's not what I'm suggesting here at all. But you would expect a media, well, I don't know why I used the word expect and media in trying to make an argument for standards, but nonetheless, you would hope, therefore, let me use the word hope, you'd hope that a media, at least at a time like an election like this, would at least be factual, would be fair, would give all candidates a fair shake. That hasn't been the case. If anything, they've literally given Joe Biden a almost smooth pathway to communicate with the public, an almost uncritical pathway. If you've seen some of the Joe Biden interviews, it's like softball questions, man. Softball questions. But anytime Donald Trump is being interviewed by the media in that part of the world, it's aggressive, it's confrontational, it resorts to his usual name calling, and including name calling from the media. Both sides. That's why I don't absolve the media. Their behavior has also been rather reprehensible. And it's a shame, because a lot of people obviously gauge and garner their views on certain candidates based on what the media says and what the media presents. Here in South Africa in particular, again, no different to the media in the US. If you check the actual coverage in South Africa, it is mostly pro-Biden. Again, it won't be outwardly pro-Biden, but they effectively take their talking points from the Democratic left and really the Joe Biden campaign. Don't believe me? Have a look. Turn on your news outlets here in South Africa and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. Have a look at late night TV in America. The likes of your Jimmy Kimmels, for the life of me, I can't remember this douchebag's name. The South African, Trevor Noah. Trevor Noah, ever since assuming his role as the host of the Daily Show, he's literally been a Democratic shill. It's been embarrassing to watch. It's been embarrassing to watch. These shows used to be about humor, satire, making fun of all politicians. Yes, they've always sort of had a historical sort of, soft left or a Democrat lean to them, but they've always historically made an effort to make fun of all politicians. Not anymore. Now they openly just parrot DNC talking points, including Trevor Noah, which is odd for us in South Africa. It's very odd, at least. It begs the question, what was the brief that he was given? What was the brief that was given? I've never heard him say a single good thing or an objectively good thing about the Trump administration. Again, I know it's not his job to be nice to politicians. That's not the point. But I would expect his job, if that is the case, I would expect his job to be equally not nice, satirical, and actually funny on all politicians. But we don't see that. So that, to come back to my first point, Donald Trump it's literally him and his campaign versus Joe Biden, the mainstream media, the social elites, including Hollywood in that part of the world, and the chattering classes, and of course the woke academia / punditry in that part of the world. All of whom, in one shade or the next, are effectively shilling for the Democratic national nominee, or the Democratic nominee, excuse me, Joe Biden. So that, of course, they make it easy when Donald Trump says, yeah, they're fake media. They make it easy to look at it objectively and say, yeah, I can see what this guy's saying. He's being a douchebag and an asshole about it, excuse my language, but I hear what he's saying because we see it. We see it in how just simply non-objective the guy is. I mean, they couldn't even bring themselves to give Donald Trump a pat on the back for some really good work that he's been doing. His work on Israel and bringing peace to the Middle East, top notch. Top notch. Top tier diplomacy, where you're seeing countries, Arab countries in particular, that literally signed declarations in Khartoum, Sudan. What's called the 3 No's. Look it up. In the 70s. Basically, no negotiations with Israel, no relations with Israel, no recognition of Israel. Countries that signed that declaration just a few years ago in the 70s are literally now signing peace deals and normalizing relationships with Israel. Arab countries, guys. Arab countries. UAE, I can go down the line. Bahrain is the other one. And there's other ones now that other Arab countries, that is, are literally, as we're told, lining up to say, hey, man, you know what? I think it's time for us to raise our hands and say peace with the Israelis, normalization of relations with the Israelis. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. Trump is achieving things that other presidents in the past who have stuck their nose in this issue have never actually achieved. And this, by the way, is the same Trump that we were told is a buffoon, a clown. We were told at the beginning of his presidency, oh, this guy will cause war. He'll cause World War III. Guys, again, you don't have to be a fan of Donald Trump. That's not what I'm asking people to be here. And that's not necessarily what I am either. I'm just that guy who's like, you know what? This guy's like any other politician. There's a good, a bad, and an ugly to him. And if you're willing to be bold in calling out the bad and the ugly of a politician, like I sometimes say, #politicians are trash, you've also got to be realistic and honest enough to say kudos when they do really good things. And for me, Donald Trump, I treat like no other politician in that regard too. And yes, there's a little fanning at times, especially when he does good things that I personally agree with. So that it comes back to that the first point. Let me just summate the first point I want to make here, because I'm keeping an eye on time. It's we shouldn't be surprised, and we shouldn't be surprised when he rightly says, you know what, this campaign is him versus not just Joe Biden, but the mainstream media, as I said, the social elites in that part of the world, the chattering classes, including Hollywood. And of course, the sort of woke academia, the ones who are pushing asinine ideas into the public space through the media, as political punditry, as political analysts. Which brings me to a second point I want to make, very briefly. There's been a lot of noise in this election in the run-up to it. A lot of noise, including, of course, from the media, which I've just argued is definitely shilling in most cases for Biden. A lot of noise. But what I've realized is a lot of it also is a little bit of an echo chamber, where there's this insistence by the Biden types and those on that side of the world that, you know what, if we're just the loudest voice in the room, then we'll project the reality and will project, even if it's a false reality, and I don't know if it's a false reality. And historically, what we would do as people who are, trying to keep up with an election or whatever the case may be, and for Americans, perhaps they used to look at, what we used to do, is to look at polls, right? Polls used to give us a snapshot at a given time of where the national mood is for one candidate versus the other. But it does seem, and we've learned this lesson from the 2016 election, that the polls in America are often heavily skewed towards the Democrat side, and that they're actually not reliable. Again, I would hope, since I can't assume, I would hope that the methodology has improved and that they're much fairer now in how they, for example, track and poll people on opinion. But there's one thing that's become crystal clear for a lot of us who are paying attention. The polls, and I saw your comment just now, are actually rather meaningless. Because sometimes the polls are playing into the game of being the loudest voice in the room to provide a certain narrative or propaganda for a certain candidate, which is a shame. Because for those of us who like to create, for those of us who like to provide hard analysis, to look at data, etc., we now actually can't rely on the data. That's a massive shame. That's a massive shame. And that the only data we have, or at least the only data I have and the only data I'm going by, is what I can see and observe. And there's two observations I've made in this election, which are actually reminiscent of the 2016 election of Trump versus Hillary. Number one, Trump's crowds that he pulls at his rallies are just second to none. No one matches Trump with the enthusiasm of his support base and their ability to come out. I mean, I'm seeing this guy in Pennsylvania, a lot of these swing states, literally with crowds of tens of thousands of people. It's insane. One of them actually, literally, it looked like a rock concert where one of the, I think an aspirant candidate for Senate was surfing the crowd. I've never seen that before at a political rally. It was absolutely fantastic to see, at least, the enthusiasm that his people have for him as a candidate. And then you compare that to a Joe Biden rally that we've been seeing, crickets. Literally scatterings of people. I've never seen a crowd more than 30, maybe 50 at his rallies. And I know it's going to happen. In the comments. People are going to come back and say, yeah, well, that's because Joe Biden takes COVID-19 seriously and social distancing, blah, 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 blah. But if that were true, then explain this to me. How is it possible that the left broadly and people who genuinely would support Democrats have openly and happily, by the way, these same people endorse the Democrats, so I'm not just pulling this out of the thin air, have openly and happily, when it comes to protesting in the streets, coalesced and gathered in thousands? How is it that they'll gather in thousands to be at a Black Lives Matter or an Antifa protest or any of these other trendy lefty pro-Democrat movements? How is it that they'll gather in their thousands to loot, riot, burn in the streets, to demonstrate in some cases, but they won't show up in the thousands at these rallies or even show a similar enthusiasm at Biden rallies, official Biden rallies? Angazi. There's something fishy about what's going on here, man. Which makes me wonder whether Biden truly has the support of that left, who we often see when they want to, or happily hit the streets and literally mob and, often even, because by the way, those protests that you see by the likes of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and blah, 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 they're not just like disorganized, rebel-rousing type stuff. They're actually very organized. Very organized. I mean, look at some of the video clips where these groups, these mobs, go to senators' houses in order to intimidate, make a noise or whatever outside the houses of senators. In fact, I think one of the more recent one, they went to the house of Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. So you can't say they're random and they're organized and Biden can't rally that. Of course he can. The truth is he just can't rally it. Those people are not interested in Joe Biden. Seemingly. Who knows? We'll see tomorrow when they actually vote. That's the second point I wanted to make, is that there's a failure for us who traditionally used to look to polls and data and opinion polls, for instance, to then gauge what the national mood is. So with the lack of that data, we're going off of what we see aesthetically in terms of crowd numbers and the like. And not only crowd numbers, but the actual ability to mobilize people. And in that regard, Trump has it down 100%. 100%. Tens of thousands of people. You should see some of these videos, guys. Convoys of vehicles on national highways, long-ass convoys by Trump supporters, excuse me. Again, this is not me professing support one way or the other. It's just what it has been directly observable for those of us who are on the outside looking in. So that I ask the question, therefore, based on the failure to trust polls and our reliance, or at least my reliance, therefore, on crowd numbers and enthusiasm, I ask the question, are these people in both sides of the camps, are they perhaps in one way or the other, one shade or the other, maybe two sides of two different echo chambers? Where the where the Democrat Biden echo chamber is one of the elites in particular. Social elites, Hollywood, the chattering classes, the political political punditry, and of course the political elites in that part of the world, including the Biden and mainstream media. That could be one echo chamber, again, reminiscent, therefore, of 2016 with Hillary, when they were telling us things like, yeah, we project Hillary to win, and 96% chance that Hillary will win. And they created this feverish echo chamber that had them believing that they're going to win this hands down, and that Trump, the outsider, was not going to make it. And now, with this second run, of course, of Donald Trump, are we perhaps, maybe, if for instance we're to believe the polls, right? If we're to believe the polls that Biden is leading in most of these states and that Trump is behind, are we perhaps therefore then seeing a bubble, an echo chamber of the MAGA guys at their rallies? Could that maybe just be an echo chamber of sorts? That's what I meant by the title of this video. That for me, one of these echo chambers will be proven correct tomorrow at the polls. And as we say in Zulu, kote manigi. Loosely translated, hey man, it's about to go down. We'll see. And the third and the last argument I want to make here, third and the last argument as I wrap up, is it's been interesting to see the two messages of the two candidates. There can be no doubt that Joe Biden is leading a message which is basically, it revolves around fear and Project Fear. Wear a mask, he'll tell you. You're going to die, he'll tell you. If you don't do this, if you don't do that, COVID-19, it's blah, 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 blah. The economy is in a doldrum, blah, blah. It's mostly negative and a Project Fear type campaign. And it's been interesting to watch him spin that, because I can see other politicians around the world effectively latching onto that sort of Project Fear lingo, versus Donald Trump. Or before I get to Trump, Biden, in addition, yes, we must lock down, we must shut down, and he's not clear on his stance on protecting institutions in America. For instance, when he was asked the question, if he wins the presidency, will he pack the U.S. Supreme Court? We still have not heard a response a real response from Joe Biden in that regard. And that's actually very dangerous, because if there's one thing that the Western liberal tradition has taught us, is that any functional society, any strong society that is going to endure, must have strong institutions and not strong politicians or politics. That's critically important. And again, I'm not saying America is perfect in this regard, but one thing is crystal clear. Their constitution made provisions for there to be checks on power and effectively strong institutions and not strongman politics. That's why they have a Supreme Court, a devolvement of power, i.e., what's called state rights in that part of the world, where the federal government should not be as big as it is today. That's another issue for another day. And I can go down the line, right? The idea that you have checks and balances on power and each sphere of the state. So Biden has not been open and clear on whether his presidency would continue that tradition of protecting American institutions, protecting the rights of Americans, which includes, by the way, the rights to bear arms, which is the Second Amendment, the rights to free speech, which is the First Amendment, and I can go down the line. The very sort of rights which are being attacked at the moment by the rabid left in that part of the world. A rabid left who are literally on the side of the Democrats at the moment. And I'm seeing here there are 5 rights in the First Amendment. I was just picking free speech for the purposes of this vlog. I can't go into every single right in a vlog. Catch up, guys. So there's a strong argument to be made that a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for uncertainty in whether institutions of the United States, society and government, and of course the Constitution, will be protected. There's a lack of clarity in that, which for me is super dangerous. Oh, I'm seeing the buffering symbol. I'm gonna give it a moment because I'm seeing the buffering symbol. I've got a feeling it'll say yikes. I don't know if I'm still on. I'm literally seeing a oscillating buffering symbol. Okay, Lukanya says we can see you. All right, thanks, man. Jason Gates, hello, Achi. I see you. All right. Maybe let me wrap up. I was about to wrap up in any event. I just wanted to make the case for these two candidates and the differences. Because when you then listen to the message from Donald Trump, it's been surprising. It's been surprising. Donald Trump, for everything that's been said about that guy, has literally, number one, in terms of his promises from 2016, which is uncharacteristic of politicians generally, he's kept his promises. Guys, hands down, whether you like him or hate him, he's kept his promises. Now, bear in mind, I'm the sort of guy who, as I always say, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. There are good things that I like about Trump's policies. Deregulation, lower taxes, love that kind of stuff. But on the other side, the trade policy stuff, all of that nonsense, I'm not a fan of. But I'll be open and honest in my analysis in saying the guy has kept his promises. And I can see, therefore, why there is an appeal to his base for someone who keeps promises. He's genuinely an outsider in that regard. Therefore, it stands to reason that as he then campaigns and has been campaigning in this election, the dude has been saying things which is rather impressive. And he's created a track record amongst his own base, and maybe even a lot of undecided voters. He's created a track record of people going, you know what? This guy kept his promises. The vast majority of them from the last election will vote for him again. I have seen, watching online, guys who I know are moderates and who are non-partisan, literally switch and say we're voting for Donald Trump. Tim Pool, a guy who I watch, a vlogger, and a host of a show on social media, he was one of those guys. In fact, he used to be a Democrat lefty, but he's now switched and he's saying, you know what, I'm voting Donald Trump. Which is amazing to me. Ben Shapiro, another guy who I listen to, Someone who in 2016 hated Donald Trump's character and personality and didn't even believe that Donald Trump was a conservative, recently just came forward and said, you know what? On the balance of things that we've observed, this guy's being more conservative than a lot of presidents, and he's voting for Donald Trump. Considering in 2016, he didn't vote for Donald Trump. Guys, that says a lot. That says a lot. So, to summate, the approach, therefore, by Trump is one that has been characterized by building on his track record of I keep promises, number one, excuse me. Number two, all right, I think I'm back. A call came through. I just had to quickly close it down. As I said, let me quickly recap. I was making the point on Trump, therefore, and his messaging versus the messaging from Joe Biden. Excuse me. Trump has had a relatively positive message. America can make it. America is great. We can do so much more. That catch line of his, which I think is a very good one, of the best is yet to come. That stuff resonates with people who have been demoralized and dejected. It resonates with a public who have had enough of being treated like second-rate citizens by often Democrat governors who have locked down, who have shut down businesses, who have created economic misery. So Trump speaks at positivity. He's like, you know what? We can do it. We can bring back this and that. We can get the economy up and running again. We need to open up. Tell me, if you're an ordinary citizen and you're tired of being or living under the control of the vice grip of politicians, you'd listen to Trump and say, yeah, I like that. That's what I want. Open the economy, get life back to normal, and essentially bring us back to that state where we had a growing economy or they had a growing economy, in the United States. So I'm not surprised, guys. I'm not surprised that Trump is as popular that he is. And I can see the comments here, the usual talking points, people gnashing their teeth. Oh, Trump is a liar, blah, blah, blah. Guys, it's politics. And this is what I keep saying. Hashtag politicians are trash. They're in a space where they sometimes feel, and for many, oftentimes feel they have to lie. But there are certain objective things we can look at in terms of each candidate that we can say, okay, cool. Of his promises, this guy's kept his promises. That is objectively true. Anyway. So I think it's those two visions that Americans will walk into the polls tomorrow. That project fear and negativity that the Democrats ran with and that Biden, in his often not so lucid states, has stumbled out in words, versus Donald Trump, who I argue has basically said, you know what, I stand with you as citizens of this country. And by the way, I'm not a fan of his personality, but that's another issue for another day. But in terms of his messaging, I think his messaging has hit that sweet spot in the US electorate. And that just because you don't see Trump supporters in the preceding 4 years being the sort of people who are vocal and all of that, for good reason, by the way, because America is the kind of country where if you're wearing a red MAGA hat, you get assaulted in public. You get chastised, you get sworn at, blah, blah, blah. So of course you're not going to see those people in the 4 years. And the ones who you will see are the lefty types, the loud voices, the media, etc., who then project being the biggest voice in the room because they're the loudest voice in the room. That I then argue you might be seeing a silent majority rise up in this election and repeat history. You might see a repeat of 2016, where all the mainstream media, the punditry, the Hollywood elites tell you that, Democrats. And then after the elections, as the results tick in, you start seeing MAGA racking up the Electoral College in the race to 270, him getting there first. So that's my take, guys. As on the eve of the US election, I still ask the question, who will win? Will we see, as the entire establishment is telling us, a clean sweep of Joe Biden, of him edging Donald Trump in a lot of states, as the polls are telling us, as the media is telling us, as the chattering classes are telling us? Or will we see Donald Trump winning like he did in 2016, where we're told he's going to lose, and then on the day, he wins, and he pulls out serious wins too, including in serious swing states? Will we see a repeat of history? That's my question to you guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I see your comments, guys. I'm going to end the vlog here. Thank you so much for watching. But needless to say, tomorrow will be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I think it will have serious ramifications for the rest of us outside of the United States. Will it be a Trump 2020, or will Joe Biden and Kamala Harris take this election? We've got to see. We've got to wait and see. To my American friends and maybe my American viewers, happy voting tomorrow. I hope you guys will take the day, reflect, and choose the very leader that you want to win in that election. So good luck to you guys. Have fun. Also, guys, democracy should be fun, I think. And I'm seeing the comments here. Lots of Trump fans in the comments, and I'm seeing some Biden fans too. But yeah, guys, it's enough to say that whatever happens tomorrow, let us hope that the U.S. is a more prosperous, peaceful, and stable nation. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens, whatever your particular preference may be. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can support the show, as I said, as little as $1 a month via Patreon or on PayPal. Links are in the description, and I will soon have a bank account out, and so you guys can contribute directly to my bank account. By the way, Wednesday, the Big Daddy Liberty Show at 7 p.m. I'm hoping to have the newly elected DA leader, John Steenhuisen, for a conversation on the show. I'm still working on that, so look out for that. I will try and set up my system to allow you guys to call in. I'll let you know if that works out. Excuse me. I'll let you know if that works out, which will allow you guys to call in and join the conversation. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, guys. And remember, as I always say at the end of videos, never trust a commie. Maybe Americans should also heed that advice.